So we're going to talk about Unreal, I guess. Unreal. So my name is Sjoerd Jong. I work for Epic Games.
Heikki Repo from Cornfox and Brothers.
So a little bit about my background. I started working with Unreal 19 years ago-ish, in the late 90s. Started as level designer, had my own indie studio. I ran one of the main educations in Sweden for years. I live still in Sweden. I'm not Swedish though. For some reason I always have to mention that because it's important somehow. My own games are the Solos Project, Mechanical, and The Ball from Teodor Studios. I worked for several larger studios as well, so I did all kinds of different things. And eventually, I ended up in the position of evangelist for the Unreal Engine, given my background, 19 years with Unreal, and given my background in education, AAA, indie, kind of having done everything. And so what I do now is I talk about Unreal across Europe, travel around, and literally talk about Unreal. So, and then...
Yeah. I'm a creative director and co-founder of Cornfox. The company was established in 2010, and we are currently a team of 6 people. Some of you might know our previous games, Death Rally and Oceanhorn, so we take our time developing our games. Oceanhorn 2's development started in 2015, and pre-production even earlier than that, but it's coming along nicely.
So I'm going to start off, in the first half of the talk, I'm going to do most of the talking. I'm going to start off with a brief introduction of Epic Games, and then we're going to talk about what we're doing with the engine and mobile games across the world, and then slowly it's going to transition more and more to Heikki, who's going to start talking more about how it impacts them and the development of Oceanhorn. Okay, so that's going to be the setup. So, brief intro about Epic. We started in 1991, so we're moving towards 30 years old now in 2-3 years. We're 1,000 people about. Headquarters is still in Cary, North Carolina, as ever. We now have 16 offices, though, across the world, so obviously Canada and United States, but also in the UK, several ones, Germany and Berlin, Japan, China, South Korea, and then in Sweden, Stockholm, since, what is it, half a year ago, I think, about. So we now have about 10 people in Stockholm, and that's growing as well. And the Stockholm office is focused on engine development, so engineering, essentially. We are still privately owned, we are still run by the founders, and we really just want to make cool stuff and make a difference. That's it. We're not doing this to please stockholders. We're not doing this, for investors or anything like that. We're doing this because we really want to make a difference. We want to make cool stuff. We want to wake up every day and think like, today we're going to do this or that, or like try to make a difference there, or see if we can make the film industry faster and better, or whatever goal we have. But that's why we do this. Everything else is just a side effect to that. We want to make cool stuff. Now, we started the Unreal Engine in 1995, so what is it now, 23 years old, I think. We've had hundreds of AAA games over the past few decades. We then launched Unreal Engine 4 2014, went free 2015. The numbers I've got here are actually from earlier in the year. I think it's probably changed a bit already. But before summer, we had 5 million users. That meant we had 10,000 people a day joining the engine, or at least registering for downloading the engine, which is a 3 times faster growth in the past 12 months. So it is accelerating more and more. And very importantly, we make games. Unreal Tournament, which is what we did, what we started with, Infinity Blade on mobile, and then, of course, Gears of War, and, of course, now Fortnite. And that is really important for the engine. That's really a difference there for the engine. I'll show you that a little bit in a few slides. Because by using our own tech, we have workflow validation, right? Does it actually work? Do our tools actually work if you build a game? Or do you hit some unknown questions, or there's some frustrations, or stuff just doesn't work as good as you had hoped? You need to build your own games to figure it out. You need to build your own games to also figure out what do we not have? What kind of tools are we missing? Where is the process frustrating? You want to have small quality of life improvements. All of the small stuff, you want to find that and fix that, performance, etc. Right? So it's really important you make your own games, and that's exactly what we've been doing with, for example, Fortnite. So I assume everyone knows Fortnite, right? It makes, it's going okay. A few people have heard of it, so it's okay. So it's a game with some trees on a field of grass, as you can see there, and you walk around and you shoot people. Good? Best marketing description ever. Anyway, the game is actually, from a technical perspective, it's rather complex, because what you're trying to do is have a relatively large open world environment with a lot of players there in multiplayer at the same time. I believe we have over 50,000 replicated actors or objects in the world that have to be replicated. Stuff is destroyable, people can build things as extra dimension on top of it, and this then has to run on all these different devices. And that makes it complicated. So I have a very brief trailer here. I have several videos lined up of the Android launch. So this is Android. So, I mean, from a technical perspective, doing what we did here on mobile, so we have it on iOS now and on Android, it's the exact same game running on mobile. So it's not a port, it's not a different branch of the engine that we changed in the game and where we had to change all the assets to try to make it work. It's the exact same game that ports over, that builds essentially, to mobile or to PlayStation or Xbox or PC or whatever other platform we use. It's the same game that's just ports is the wrong word, builds to the different platforms. And that's a major, major thing. That's exactly where we see the future going. So we've already seen this happening in Asia, where it feels this process is further along, where we're starting to get more high-end mobile games, essentially games that run on multiple platforms at the same time, including mobile. And that's what we've been doing with Fortnite, and it works. You know, there is a clear market for that, and I'm going to show you several other games like this in the same, you know, same genre in a sense, to really prove that point. So here's several short videos. Okay, there's about 30 seconds per video. It started with Lineage 2 in South Korea. You can see it's a very quick video, but if you, I will pause the screen in a second here and there. Let me actually do that. Just to show you a little bit of what the game looks like. So you're dealing with this on mobile. This is a mobile RPG. With 200 players, I believe. They have dynamic shadows, all of the UI and such. That's the complexity we're going at there. If you look at, for example, Blade and Soul, this is all mobile. And it continues like this. So here's, of course, PUBG on, I think this is Android. I think it's Android. And I think this is the last one, Ark, as well. Dinosaurs on mobile. But I think you're starting to see the picture, right? This is 100% possible with today's devices to go quite far in terms of what you can pull off with size of the games, complexity, graphical quality, and so forth. And that's really where we see the future going, to take that next step. I'll let this finish.
Looks awesome.
Yeah. So this is outdated. Actually, this switch is missing here. This was the status for Fortnite crossplay earlier this year, again minus Switch, where we have managed to make cross-platform work between everything except PlayStation and Xbox and Switch. So you can now take Fortnite, play it on iOS, and play it together with someone who's playing on PC. Now, gameplay issues aside, where one player has, you know, faster controls because of mouse and such, we matchmake against that, try to minimize the effect of that, but you can actually play together, and that's really where we see the future going as well. We think that the gamers of tomorrow, they're going to expect more high-end mobile titles, because first of all, the kids of yesterday, they grew up with touchscreens and match-3 games, right? If you had a phone in 2008 or 2009, whenever this stuff started really becoming mainstream, if you were, say, 4 years old in 2008, you know, you're what? You're 14 now. You're going to move out of that kid's phase, right? You're going to become a teenager, you're going to expect something else. You're going to expect larger games or different kind of experiences. And that's what we think we're starting to see happen now. We have the first generation of kids who have grown up entirely with touchscreens. They're now becoming teenagers. What do they want to do? What do they want to play? There's something is going to happen there. In general, also for that group of people, that group of players, they don't really have a huge problem with touchscreen controls. For example, I personally want to have a gamepad or a keyboard or something to play like a shooter, right? I want to feel that stuff, I want to feel the buttons. But I think that if you grow up with touchscreens from day one, you don't have a huge issue with having literally touchscreen controls and playing, for example, PUBG on mobile. And that's what we're seeing happening there as well. First, the hardware is obviously simply getting more and more powerful, so we are actually able to do all of the things you've seen now, which opens up the market. We also have more saturation in the market, so there is a need to start doing bigger things or different things than your typical mobile experiences. So that opens up possibilities as well. And gamers simply want to play their games anywhere with anyone. We've been telling the players for years now that we're going to do games as a service. Cool, because that's better for us, I guess, as developers, right? But the game is actually bought into that, so yes, now they want a service. And a service means that you can play your game anywhere, anyhow you want. It would be as if you get a Netflix subscription and then Netflix tells you, well, you can only look at this on PC or on mobile. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It's a service. You want to be able to log in anything on any device you've got and look at the stuff or play it or use it anywhere you are, right? It's a service. So gamers are going to expect to play, for example, Fortnite on their PlayStation 4 or whatever other device at home, then go to school or go to work, sit in the bus and continue on their phone. And maybe then start playing with friends who play it on PC or whatever, go back and forth between different devices. And that's where we see the future heading. More mobile, more cross-platform, more high-ends. Okay, so now you might say, that's all really cool, but you know what, we're like 3 or 4 people. So what does this mean to us? And this is a big thing for us as well with the engine. I'm going to show you this video. It's a very long video, so I'm just going to skip through a little bit just to give you a quick impression, okay? Let's skip through that first just to see what it is.
This time.
Just to give you an impression of the game here and the content that's in it. This is not a mobile title, this is a PC, PlayStation title, rather.
You have your reason.
Right, I mean, you can see there's a lot of content, right? So here's the thing, this was made by one person. This is a really inspirational story because it was made by one person from China who is a student and he's an artist. And he's done the whole thing without programming, with Unreal. And that tells a huge story. And that's an exceptional story, reader. This is not really the standard. I mean, we only have one of, I believe this is the only one who've done that. But still, the fact that one person with presumably little experience, because he's a student, as an artist, is able to do all of this, shows you what is possible if you have the right tools and you have, use the Unreal Engine, use our approach that we've taken with the tools and quality and making everything as easy and as visual as possible. So it's using visual scripting blueprints that we have for most of the gameplay. And of course, that's an exception, right? But that's not where it ends, because for example, all of these games here, most of them are European teams, actually. They're all European teams, except 2. These are all small teams with popular, successful games made on Unreal. All of these games have been made by about 4, 5, 6, 7-ish teams. And they all look great. They're all commercial successes. So there's definitely a possibility, market-wise to go there. In fact, I've done that myself. This is my own game. I spent 3 years building this with 7 people. And then we ended up selling 200,000 copies, $20 each, so you can go calculate. It's fully possible. And that's really where we would like to see indie developers move to, in fact.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a little bit of developer perspective here. So this is our latest trailer from 6 months ago from GDC, and this is all running on mobile. So we captured the trailer for material with iPhone 7 Plus, and yeah, you can see all the features that we have there. It has a complex physically based rendering. It has foliage and trees and all that stuff. So I'm gonna get a little bit into detail very soon there. So About Oceanhorn 2 itself, it's a little bit takes the genre further away from the first game. It's going to be a third-person adventure game, and this time you're going to have a party members along your side later on in the game. Yeah, so we have been working on this since 2015 with 5 guys, and now last spring we hired a level designer to become the 6th member of the team. So I'm gonna talk more about this very soon.
So we continue to improve the engine rapidly, especially for mobile, also because of Fortnite. So that's one of the impacts Fortnite has on the engine, is that because we now have Fortnite running on mobile, we also ourselves figure out, oh, that doesn't really work that well, maybe that could have been faster, and so on, right? So we're making rapid changes, and in fact, if I click this link here, this is the release notes of our last release, which is 420. You know, so this is how it looks. I always do this because it's really great fun. It really tells a point. These are the changes we've done. Most of what you see here are mobile and performance changes. For example, here we have improved Android debugging, mobile landscape improvements, platform material stats, which is great for mobile as well. You know, some miscellaneous improvements for mobile. This is switch improvements, etc. So there's a lot of fixes and improvements coming in because of Fortnite. And you can kind of just scroll through and get an impression of what an average release for us looks like. So this is the 20th release we've done since 2014. Each of those 20 releases was the size of this. Okay, and I can just scroll through, but it paints the picture. This is one release, right? And I can keep on doing this for a while, which I'm exactly what I'm going to do, a little bit. Because now we start getting to the bug fix, it goes even faster, see? And the crash fixes, improvements, new changes, features. We're now about 45% in, right? So this is what's underneath still. Okay, that really paints the picture, and we are detailed. We will tell you exactly what has happened in every single version. For example, we added a function to scrollbox to determine what fraction of the window we're displaying, and that was added to UMG. So everything is listed there, everything is transparent, and that's really where we're going with the engine again. This is a long video, I'll just skip through it a little bit as well. This is a GDC talk from this year. This is actually 2 hours long. So we took Fortnite and we're showing what happens with all the changes in the work that we've done, a completely technical level, to really explain what did we do, where did we hit performance issues, where did we change the workflow, etc., etc. So this was all at GDC. You can find this back online and see everything we did. How did we optimize the art? And again, it's very long. This is only half of the talk. So that was PlayStation 4 performance there, etc., etc., etc. So again, you can really see the impact that making your own games has on the engine and the quality, and in improving the quality. We released the Action RPG sample, I think a month ago, about a month, I think, which is a mobile example project. So we built a sample game, and then we released that online as a learning project. So you can download the game, look at how we build it, analyze how it's been done, and so on. So that's there. And what we're focusing on moving forward, and always have focused on in a way, is it should be as easy as possible to have complex content scale between platforms. Okay, so we're not just talking about the ability to make a game run on multiple devices, because that's not that special. I mean, that has been done before. But the ability to take high-end content, rather complex, large-scale content, and have that transition to multiple devices, including mobile, and have that be as easy and painless as possible. As always, the engine quality, completely true and true, okay? In terms of performance, it needs to run as absolutely good as possible. I mean, just think of Fortnite for a second, the scale that we're at. If we can get Fortnite to run 1% faster, that 1% in terms of server costs for us alone already is a huge difference. So we're motivated to get every single little chunk of performance out of the engine. Tools, rendering, networking, any of that stuff. And multiplayer is going to grow further in importance, especially with crossplay. I'm going to hopefully support it as good as we can and stimulate that in the industry. And I'm going to start handing over to Heikki. So as a transition, this is PC, and that's mobile. Same content, same game. That's how it scales.
Yeah, all right. So let's talk about a little in detail how we chose Unreal for our game. So during the pre-production of Oceanorn 2, we were evaluating should we keep developing our own engine and our own editor, or look at our options from commercial engines. So luckily in 2014 Unreal Engine 4 debuted, and it was more available and tempting engine choice for indie developers. So here are a couple of points why we chose Unreal Engine. So first of all, Unreal Engine has a huge backlog of AAA titles under its belt. So it makes a great point for something you can complete a game project with. Our programmers could continue using C++ for their coding. We had our own editor, which was a central element to our development of the first game. So this time we had powerful level editing tools that had been in development for the past 20 years. One of the key points was also that with our previous games, we went through porting to other platforms for PC and consoles. So this time with Unreal Engine 4, it's very easy to go from other platforms. Currently, during the development, the game is running on iOS, tvOS, macOS, and PC. So me, myself, I'm a designer and artist, so here's a couple of points from my daily work. Unreal Engine 4 really helps us to max out what we can get from our two-man art team. And there are very practical tools like, for example, LOD tool, level of detail object tool, that does automatically the LODs for your game art. This one was introduced, I don't know, a couple of years ago, but we started without it. And there's can be see a lot of efficiency there without us having to do the level of detail objects, and the outcome is better with the automated system. As for the editor, it's a big deal for us. It has everything you can dream for inside the editor itself. No need for external plugins or anything. So, for example, the Terrain tools has automatic LODs implemented into them, which is great for mobile performance. So the terrains are automatically reduced on the distance. Blueprints are great. We don't use them as much for the game logic as we do for the from artistic perspective. We use them for elevators and stuff like that. Buttons connected within puzzles and all that. They're great, and they can be used for more, as there are many examples in Sjoerd's presentation as well. So a couple of technical details, what we learned, and I think many mobile developers know. This will be about the memory. So you're always going to have memory constraints on your target platforms. Let's say even the latest phones have between 1 to 2 gigabytes of memory, and you cannot use all of it. So you need to think carefully how you build your game regarding the memory. So what we do is we have only a few base materials, and everything else is connected to them. They're material instances. So if you would have plenty of unique materials, you would spend a lot of memory. Our materials usually use only 2 bitmaps, which are normal map and albedo map. And we use TGA format for albedo, so we can hide the roughness information on the alpha channel of the albedo. We use baked lighting. It looks great on mobile, but it takes a lot of memory, so you need to be careful about the size of your levels unless you're planning to do some streaming, which we haven't really done, but it works out great. We can use platform-specific texture compression for each platform. So there's a lot of memory save right there. So about the performance, another big deal with mobile games. Mobile hardware of today can crunch a lot of polygons. So basically, there's no need to go into this low polygon style anymore. All of our assets are done with high-end platforms in mind. And main character, character polygon limit, for example, is something like 64,000 polygons. We don't even use that much, though. And because of the great tools that can, and the lots, we have a really nice performance from perspective of polygons. But draw calls, however, is a big deal. So you need to be careful about the level size, how many unique objects you have there. I think our max draw calls is somewhere around 2,000 draw calls. So when you're doing your art for a mobile game and levels, you need to take care of the alpha overlapping. So with us, it has affected everything from planning how to work with the foliage. For example, the grass in our game is all polygons. We don't use any alpha for the grass. For the trees, we always have two materials there. We have the alpha material for the shape of the leaves, and always have an opaque material behind it, so the alphas doesn't overlap there. And Unreal Engine 4 has great tools for this kind of problems. For example, the alpha cutter tool, which you can see in the middle picture, it automatically cuts the rest of the empty space from the alpha planes, for example. And you have a great visualizers in the editor where you can see where your problems lie. So the parts which are white is going to be well, it's not a problem if it's only that little, but yeah. So let me talk a little bit about differences between mobile and PC. So you saw these two pictures again. This is Oceanhorn on PC, and for the heck of it, we disabled all the lots for this image. So it's like high detail objects all the way to the back. And for the next image, we have the mobile version running on my phone, which has the level of detail objects that are automatically generated by the engine itself activated. So it's if you compare these two, it's practically the same game. There's going to be some differences, but we're aiming for the console quality par on mobile, and it has been our goal since the beginning, and it has worked out really well with us this time. So about the differences between mobile and PC, the mobile uses forward renderer, whereas the PC uses deferred renderer. This means we don't have a lot of screen space effects on mobile, such as screen space ambient occlusion, but we have made other ways to implement the contact shadows and AO maps for the characters and important objects, so it doesn't stand out as much. For PC, we can use planar reflections and screen space reflections. With mobile, we only have sphere reflection captures available, but it works out really well. We have made a couple of hacks to make it look better on water. So the reflection captures never take anything under the water for the reflections for the water planes, and the reflection capture is always chosen from the camera's location. This will fix the horizon for your reflections if you're only using sphere reflection captures. Both platforms have great environmental effects, such as volumetric clouds and anti-aliasing tricks. I have some, I can cheat here and look what our graphics programmer told me to say. So the clouds in the sky use height map ray marching to achieve the volumetric look that adapts to the sun's direction. Water is a post-process effect that uses analytical sun height fall for volumetric water. Finally, one of the tricks we use on both platforms to get a clean look on the game and help anti-aliasing is to bake normal map variants to roughness of the MIP maps, of the texture MIP maps, basically. So if there's some textures on the distance that has a lot of normal variation, instead of having a lot of reflecting pixels there, it's baked on the roughness so they don't glimmer as much. Here's a screenshot of the mobile under the water shot, so you can see a little bit of what I'm talking about right there. So actually, yeah, at this we might still have just a little bit of time, so I could show you guys and girls a little bit of the game running on the mobile itself.
So we're going to have the game run directly on mobile on the projector here. While we do that, we have time for questions, and then we'll wrap up with 3 quick final slides at the very end of that. So that's the plan. So if there's any questions, feel free to ask them as we're playing the game here.
I need it on screen.
Oh, the screen?
It's over there, just to...
Hi. It doesn't really have to do with the presentation, especially, but it has to do with Fortnite. And one thing I don't understand is there a big difference between the mobile programming in Unreal Engine between the Switch or the mobile phone? I mean, on the programming side.
Depends how you would define programming, I guess. In a sense, do you mean graphical programming, or
yes,
do you mean, yeah?
Mostly graphical, yeah.
I mean, the differences there are the same as with any platform, but the engine takes care of it a lot. I mean, it depends what you want to do. You want to modify the renderer, then yeah. But if you want to build a game and focus on the game, kind of like they've been doing, there's not that much for you to change or to modify. I mean, the engine as a whole simply takes care of the rendering and the graphics. So unless you want to modify a particular bit of functionality, like they did with a few of the things mentioned here, I think the planar reflection on the water, like a very particular graphical feature, yes, maybe, but the engine really tries to make it abstract as possible. For example, the shaders that we use, to give a practical example, they're cross-compiled by the engine themselves. So you do everything in HLSL in the engine itself, and that gets cross-compiled to the different platforms internally by the engine. It might be that for some advanced use, you still have an exception, but in general, the engine will do as much as it can for you.
Yeah, so here's the game running. This is the latest build from this morning. Thank God nothing's broken. It runs great. We have been focusing on the performance lately, and so far everything's looking really good at the moment. I don't know if this is reducing the frame rate a little bit, but it should run like stable 30 frames per second at the moment. And we have focused on having the simple controls for the mobile, but still you have a lot of ways to do the combat and exploring here. So a lot of these are mobile-centric stuff designed from ground up to work on mobile, such as, for example, automatic jumping and climbing stuff. So it works. If it works great on mobile controls, it will work really well on your PC or console later on. Yeah, but that's basically it from the gameplay part.
Good. See if this comes back. Yep. Actually.
Yeah, so basically what I wanted to tell here today is that we have been very happy working with Unreal Engine. The game engine itself is a great help for us. It makes our team work much more efficiently than we did before. We have a great relationship with Epic Games. They're a great companion to us. We've had opportunities to show the game in Nordic Game and GDC in Epic's venue next to Fortnite, for example. I had about 20,000 people coming over to play our game. It's a great chance.
Yeah.
And a part of being an Unreal developer is that you might have a chance to get the Unreal Dev Grant, which we got a couple of months ago. It's a great addition and great help from Epic Games part for the small developers like us.
Yeah, so we're doing a lot to try to help the developers as good as we can. Our business motto is essentially, we do it together. We only succeed if you succeed, and we really try to go for that. So for example, GDC, we had a second booth there, the size of our first booth, which is big. And we filled that entire space with developers, so including you guys joined us and several dozen other developers. We gave them the spaces, as you can see there, right? So you can just have people come and play the game. We have the dev grants. We set aside $5 million a few years ago, and we're handing out the $5 million. It's literally a grant. You get the money, that's it. You could technically take the money, buy a plane ticket, and take a 3-month vacation, and it would be legal. You wouldn't find it nice, but I mean, technically you can. So you don't have to pay back the money. There is nothing there. It's literally just a grant. Here's money because you do cool stuff with the engine. Congrats. And that's really it. We want to stimulate and help as good as we can, because we can only do this together. Okay, we've been doing the engine now for, like I said, 23 years. This is not about a quick turnaround. It's not about, we have to please our investors because otherwise next year they get upset. It's not about that. We think long term. We want to make the games industry a better place. We want to get better tools out there. We want to make it possible for small companies as well to make really ambitious and really cool games. And the only way we can get to that point is if we all work together with cool tools, we focus on the quality, we do all of these things, we do these initiatives, and so on. It's the big picture. That's the only way we can do it. And that's really the goal. So just very quickly wrapping up with this to make it clear. By default, licensing-wise, it's a 5% gross royalty, and that's it. We believe in royalties because it fits our idea of we're in it together, and we only succeed if you succeed. So we don't make any money if we can't get to a point where your game is actually able to ship, which is really important, because it's one thing to make a game, it's something else to ship it, as you probably know. So this only works for us if you're able to ship and if you can get the game to become a success, which is why we do these things as well, right? Stuff like GDC and so on. For non-games, it's often 0%, but it kind of depends. It's a special licensing model there. You should talk to us. The source code is available to everyone for every platform. You can literally just go online and download it right now. You can modify the engine as you see fit, like you guys have done for the several rendering effects. So whatever is in the engine, you can change it. You can make the editor pink, as I say every time, which is totally useless, and you probably shouldn't do it, but you could do it. Which means if there is a bug in the engine, you can fix it. You don't have to get stuck waiting for us to update it or fix it, possibly miss your release window or anything like that. You can fix it yourself, or because the entire community has it as well, if you can't fix it, maybe you can find someone in the community who can fix it for you. Everyone has a source, and that's really important. All the platforms are included. You can even build for iOS from Windows, if it's blueprints at least. And any other terms beyond the standard EOLA license can be negotiated. So you can go for net revenue, different percentage, support, retail, anything else. So essentially anything is possible. We just want to make sure you can succeed. That's basically it. Good. That comes to it. Yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.